Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Wake Up Missoula. I'm your host, Scott Ramp. Let me just adjust and don't adjust your TV because apparently there's no need to because we live in a digital age. It's time for Wake Up Missoula. I got a lot of show. Got a lot of news. I got some city council. It is missing and murdered Indigenous women week this week, and we'll have on that. We'll talk about that during city council report. We got some news. We got some behind the basketball. We got a whole bunch of new programs continuing on our programming from Ballet Beyond Borders Part 2 this week, well, Part 3 next week, and it'll be ongoing throughout a good amount of time. But let's kick things off with a little bit of weather that's happening in the Missoula area. And, of course, I kind of jumped the gun with spring last Thursday with mid 40 degrees temperatures, but we're looking like we're getting to the highs in the 30s. So right now it's 21. But today is going to be a high of 35. Your low is going to be 21. So we're seeing another push of winter just before the springtime starts coming around. But we're going to see a lot of this winter snow happening pretty much all week long, all the way to Friday with a 70% chance of snow. Saturday, you're going to have that snow that night as well. So, hey, we're going to have a little more snow, which brings us to onthesnow.com. So onthesnow.com is was a website I always go to find out how much snow has fallen in the last 24 and 72 hours. Whitefish had an inch of snow in the last 24 hours. Looks like Montana Snow Bowl, Blacktail Mountain, Big Sky, and Bridger Bowl hasn't had any fresh powder in the last 72 hours overall. There's a lot of blank snow, but of course Showdown Montana had 2 inches of snow in the last 24 and 72 hours. But it looks like it's pretty clear. But you can't expect those things to change within the next couple days, as you already saw from the weather graphic that I brought up from the National Weather Services.org. So was it org or .gov? I'm pretty sure it's .gov. Anyways, let's talk about some news items. Whether it is curiosity or the fact that this guy, Mike Adams, was controversial to speak last night. The Jeff Cole lecture series brought a number of folks to speak on a wide array of social issues, but Mike Adams, coming from a conservative background to a liberal college, sparked some controversy. So basically last night, Mr. Adams spoke at the University of Montana. There was protest in and outside the lecture hall, holding various signs and disrupting the talk if possible. Many of the issues that arose when he was picked to speak at the university last year was the fact that he gave a talk called The Death of Liberal Bias in Higher Education to honor the late Wall Street Journal reporter and alum. In his talk, Adams reminded people they'll be offended from time to time, and he said it's the price of freedom. In September 2016, much of the controversy that arose from him, Adams published a Daily Wire column that criticized a gay Muslim student for inciting a queer Muslim jihad. In response, more than 2,000 signed an online petition for Adams to be removed from UNCW by November. In a statement, UNCW said that they found no evidence of unlawful discrimination posed by Adams. Of course, this is from the Missoulian quote. Mike Adams said, "The enemies of speech are relentless, and they continue to bring new ideas into the conversation." Adams considers the concept of microaggression one of the most dangerous because it's the idea that hearing a dissenting opinion is somehow equated with an act of violence. So in the state, a federal district court, here's another thing that's happening in terms of politics in the state, of another basically Michigan company trying to impose a law in the state of Montana. But of course, a federal district court judge has ruled that Montana's ban on political robocalls is constitutional, although the lack of enforcement since the ban was approved in 1991 has meant Montana still receive many calls each election cycle. So have you ever gotten calls from robots about politics or anything about this? Apparently, they're supposed to be illegal in the state of Montana, but nobody really enforces or does anything about that. So a Michigan company, Victory Processing LLC, which is a company that does these robot calls, pushed to get this removed from the Montana law and works on campaigns and ballot initiatives primarily through the use of automatic telephone calls. So, of course, that was once a way to get the vote to get people to out the vote without hiring folks that could call people to talk to them about upcoming elections. And it came the ruling in 1991. And of course, in the Helena Independent Report, where I got this story from, is that the calls kept going on well into 1992, and of course it wasn't as heavy as it was, but of course here is the law that was stated in 1991. A person may not use an automated telephone system device or sorry about that, machine for the selection of dialing of telephone numbers and plain recorded message if a message is completed to the dial number for the purpose of offering goods or services for sale, conveying information on goods or services in soliciting sales or purchases, soliciting information, gathering data or statistics, or prompting a political campaign or any use related to a political campaign. So basically, the whole idea of having robot calls is not legal in the state of Montana. So if you ever gotten a robot call, it's probably not really kosher if you really think about it, because it's against the law, Montana law. So while campaign finances and practices complaints are handled by the Commissioner of Political Practices, robocalls are considered a crime and are not under the commissioner's duty to enforce. So the whole idea is this, like they said, it's like, okay, we'll make it illegal, but we won't do anything about enforcing it. Okay, so anyways, here is a national article. Let's get out of politics. Let's get out of controversy. Let's talk about some new technology that's happening, that's coming up and around. So a super sensitive sensor called can now detect light instead of the megapixel. So the whole idea of megapixels is that you can get, it's like the little dots that get the from the picture, blah blah blah. Quantum image sensor is now what they called. Instead of pixels, QIS chips have it's called Jots. So the whole idea of Jots is each can be detected by a single particle of light called a photon. The idea of this and many other tech like this allows for the capture of light, images of a light bulb that creates billions of these Jots, and with this chip you can see the dimmest of lights within it. So the femtophotography has been used to capture the process of light in motion, while this allows for light to be that cannot be seen by the human eye but captured by your iPhone. So the whole idea is that this is going to be used for astronauts and seen in like really dark places, because a lot of times with night vision is it requires some form of light to be reflected, and a lot of night vision goggles have this ability to have a non-human eye, like an ultraviolet kind of light that shines from. So it's basically like a flashlight that nobody can see with the human eye, and then the night vision allows them to see that particular light that's being projected. But this new technology, which won't necessarily be offered to anybody as of now, but of course, if you go to gigajot.tech is where you can find out more information about this. This being marketed for people for high-speed single photon detection to unlock new image capture capabilities for consumers and professionals not possible with today's devices. So here's a picture. The whole idea is that think of this as the picture that you take, think of this as the megapixels, and think of this as the Jots that get captured from the image. Yeah. Pretty cool. I'm all about the technology, and I'm all about seeing about how future moving on here, because the one biggest thing that it would be really cool in terms of more consumer brand models is that you want to be able to shoot more night video and night stuff, because the problem with shooting at night is that you got a lot of those flying pixels and dots, and it's very fuzzy, especially at night. So this would be a nice little step forward into preventing any kind of fuzz on your video. So without further ado, I have a bunch of new programs that are going to be on MCAT, and then when we come back, I'll talk about City Council, and later on I'll show you some behind the basketball and some events right after this.
So if my kiddo prefers corn to green beans, I get to choose 2 cans of green beans as opposed to just getting handed a box with them, where things may not be as useful. An example I can give is if there's a peanut allergy in the household, and being able to either substitute or just being able to work around that kind of thing in a choice model, where in a box model that doesn't happen.
Right.
We do purchase milk, so we get a couple of deliveries of milk. It's kind of one of those nutritional necessities that we have decided are board a long, long time ago.
I use personal examples just because, these are some of the stories that you may or you will have heard as people are, maybe unaware, unfamiliar with how to do these things. We have, a lot of instances of discrimination around renting properties. They'll see a name that's like a probable Native American name. And, there's a lot of studies done nationally that have shown people are less likely to rent to people who are different than them. Jobs, same way. So some of those things are important to consider. Lack of access to healthy foods. I kind of mentioned that briefly, but for many of our Native communities, there may be one grocery store, there may be like a gas station. They're called what's called food deserts, really. So it's really difficult to find and have access to healthy foods. Safe environments as well. So in many of the communities, there may not be walkable sidewalks. They may not have them plowed. They're stray dogs, stray horses. Literally, there's a lot of people who hit horses and cows, and that's a big public health risk on at least our reservation, but many reservations.
They said that the U.S. backed Saddam in the war with Iran, and then drove Saddam out of Kuwait, and then imposed economic sanctions, and then attacked Saddam again. And now it's here to create more chaos in Iraq. So what does the U.S. want? It's just destruction of the Iraqis. That's what they think. No matter how I tried many, many times to convince people around me that the opposite was the right thing, they said, no, you are naive to think that the U.S. doesn't know what's going on in Iraq. They said that the U.S. government planned every minute detail of what's happening in Iraq. And I guess it's just hard to convince them otherwise. I try to tell people that the United States has good intentions in Iraq, but it does not implement them in the right way. They say no, it has bad intentions, but try to implement them in a nice way to convince people.
Welcome to the Missoula Democratic Congressional Candidate Forum. I'm Ann Zalda-Petrie, and I'm a clinical social worker and a social work professor for Walla Walla University, and I'm also the board president for Missoula Community Radio, and I'll be your MC for tonight. I want to tell you a little bit about what is going to happen tonight. So, first of all, we're going to start with our 20 by 20 slide presentations. And each candidate has prepared 20 slides and will speak for 20 seconds at each slide. So it's going to be fast moving. And right before each candidate speaks, they have prepared a bio, which I'll read, and then we'll start with those presentations.
All right, I would have showed you some of the candidates, but it's just like you can watch it on MCAT if you guys are interested in the congressional election. Anyways, let's move on and let's talk about some city council. I didn't want to talk about politics, so let's talk about government. The city of Missoula, they didn't have much of a big meeting. They talked about a lot of different things here and there, and we have this first, Frank Campbell, he does a public comment on housing in Missoula's demand is growing, and there's no places to live, regardless of how many efforts are being put into place into building a lot of affordable housing.
By the looks of it, in terms of our housing, we aren't making much progress. Our demand continues to be high because we're popular, and this is a great place to live, and we're successful with that, and we're all benefiting from that. Unfortunately, that's creating a substantial amount of demand for our housing and as a place to live. I'm reminded of a study that we did years ago, which looked at the allocation of growth within the Missoula Valley, and this is part of the Missoula growth policy. This allocated housing units within the valley and within the Missoula urban growth boundary. This allocation of housing was incredibly important for us to be able to deliver the housing supply that we needed to meet our demand. And I'm reminded that in the previous boom time that we had in 2007, 2008, with the Great Recession, that a lot of the housing that we did not meet in Missoula essentially went to the Beirut.
All right, so that was Frank Campbell kind of explaining a little about that. He gave us a little bit of background, but most of the thing he kind of repeated. That was what part of the public comment, and that there was not much else going on here. But of course, Mayor John Engen had a proclamation, and we'll get on that right now. A little technical problems here. Let's see here. Oh, okay. There it is. All right, so he's doing a proclamation on murdered and missing Indigenous women's.
Forum. We do have a number of special presentations in the form of proclamations. Ladies and gentlemen, whereas the city of Missoula joins with Canada to spur awareness in Montana, the Great Plains region in the United States for murdered and missing Indigenous women, and whereas there is not a comprehensive estimate of Indigenous women who are missing and murdered in the United States, but many factors contribute to this epidemic, such as fear, stigma, legal barriers, racism, sexism, and the devastating levels of violence in the United States. And whereas nearly half of all Native American women in the United States have been raped, beaten, or stalked by an intimate partner, they are 2.5 times more likely to experience sexual assault. 1 in 3 will be raped in her lifetime. A Native woman is more likely to die by homicide than by illness, including diabetes, heart disease, and cancer. Intentional homicide has been the third leading cause of death for Native females aged 10 to 24, and on some reservations, Native women and girls are murdered at more than 10 times the national average. And whereas for more than 20 years there have been awareness-raising efforts in Canada on Valentine's Day, and the Murdered and Missing Indigenous Women's Awareness Day seeks to build support by increasing awareness in the United States, and whereas there has been an increase in human trafficking in Montana due to increased oil activity in the Bakken region, as well as all areas of the state, now therefore I, John Engen, Mayor of the City of Missoula in the state of Montana, do hereby proclaim Wednesday, February 14th, 2018, as Murdered and Missing Indigenous Women Awareness Day.
All right, so a speaker from a tribe from the Blackfeet came on, and this is Catherine Littleleaf. She's from the Blackfoot tribe, and thinks that it's a good first step, but there should be more being done.
This proclamation is the first step, but we also needed a data center to examine closely the numbers of missing and murdered Indigenous women here in the United States. As a data center for missing and murdered Indigenous women, we would first recognize, then we can acknowledge as a community of Indigenous and non-Indigenous what is really happening here, such as racism. We're not doing this to ourselves as Indigenous women. Joy English is a mother, and I'm going to quote her. She lost her daughter to murder. And she says, I cannot let people perpetuate the stigma that Native women are doing this to themselves. We must constantly refuse that narrative, because colonizers or those who have preyed or prey on Native women with no regard benefit from that narrative. through racism, relying on discrimination, attitudes that we as Native women are worthless. And the numbers, the stats are showing this is not just a community issue. This is it's not just a Native issue, but it's a community and nation issue, and we need each other.
All right, so that was Catherine Littleleaf, and here is another quote from another person. This is Megan Bailey, mental health provider, who talks on Native youth.
And Native American children are disproportionately represented in our state foster care system. And of that, when our older kiddos, our teens, go on the run and they're missing, I know, Kathy knows, they're getting trafficked. And we know this. I have ran out of fingers to count the number of kiddos that I've lost to human trafficking. These are active and open cases on our reservation jurisdictions as well as our county jurisdictions. By the City of Missoula formally recognizing missing and murdered Indigenous women, it's a huge step towards us making real active efforts to protecting our youth and our Indigenous children and women. So thank you very much, Panamia.
All right. So that concludes all the quotes that I have here. There's still a lot to be done, and a lot to do to help folks of all walks of life to get the same protections and rights as their neighbors, regardless of where they hail from. This night was covered by proclamations and special presentations that I'll quickly mention. Darian Stevens Day is a day to celebrate Missoula native who is competing in the 2018 Winter Olympics. Thursday is Charter Day at the University of Montana. Tomorrow, University of Montana will be celebrating 125 years of existence. Superhero Kindness Week is also this week to celebrate those who bring joy to the community through kindness and wear capes to show off their commitment to this week and all weeks to bring joy to the community. Not to mention the cute kids in capes coming down to City Council to talk about this and more, and to get nice little rewards and a certificate, because they get a nice little certificate that of this proclamation that they can hang up in their rooms. I think this was a nice little meeting, and I suggest you guys check it out. It's only 45 minutes long. You can watch it on ci.missoula.mt.us. It is a wonderful website for anybody who is interested in upcoming meetings and more. Today, City of Missoula will be conducting mini committee meetings starting as early as now, and it's going as late into 3 in the afternoon. So just kind of be aware. It'll be airing on MCAT live, channel 190. So it's just a channel up from this channel right now, 189. So anyways, let's move on. I got a video featuring the kids of our teens, as I would say, from our Behind the Basketball. So here's another behind-the-scenes look at how we get the games going for sports. Sports! Good job, dude. 2 minutes-ish, so... Not everyone can handle our funky, fresh moves.
How's everything going? Almost did it again.
I know, sorry, the cable's terrible and should die.
You don't want to drop the camera on your record.
Okay, so this is what's been happening. We commentated the first quarter. Unfortunately, it didn't record our live stream out, so nobody could hear our wonderful voices talking the whole entire game, which is a terrible thing. And there's Tristan. He went to Hellgate High School last year. His girlfriend is still in high school. She's a cheerleader, so that's why he's here. That's the background. And that's Jack. He has a not girlfriend right now. He's kind of determining whether or not he wants to take her out for Valentine's Day or not. He doesn't know. And that's Austin right there. He's completely comfortable in himself. And they're on the way.
Halftime at the Adams Center, your Montana Grizzly men's basketball team leads Sacramento State 34-31.
Fonzie are over there.
What up? I can't see a single thing.
Is the lens cap open?
Lens cap. Wait. Woo!
Alright, Graham needs to put this thing in first.
Grizzly Grizz. No, Graham first. Graham first.
Me first.
Just act nonchalant.
Well, we have video evidence if they kill us.
Nonchalant.
When I say sports, you say sports.
Sports.
Teamwork is what I do. You don't do it because I did it through.
You know how tough I am?
How tough are you?
I'm a toddler with a fork, and I shoved it into a plug-in, and I lived. Shh. Dude, it's a killer.
Yeah, he's coming right. Oh God,
He's coming in the car.
In the car.
He's gonna kill him.
It's Carpenter.
You'll never see me coming.
That was pretty dramatic. I liked it. All right, we're going to close it until something funny happens. I'm Austin. This is Jack and Scott.
Hey.
And, yeah.
Hey guys, welcome back. Now it's time for some events that are happening in and around the city of Missoula. Let's kick things off with your Wednesday morning. If you guys are going out and about and you love your library fundraiser ends tomorrow, and you have only one more day to help them raise $15,000. If you're interested in doing that, they'll be open pretty much all day today. Missoula Indoor Sports Arena, Mismo Gymnastics, and Roots Acro Sports Center will be doing all sorts of gymnastics for kids walking to about 5 years of age, for those little kids who are looking to have a fun, safe place to learn to walk, learn to do some tumbles, learn to somersault, learn to flip, have some trampolines, some foam pits to keep them safe. Tiny Tales is at the Missoula Food Bank at Empower Place, which the Missoula Food Bank is on Wyoming Street, kitty corner of West Side Lanes, and it helps kids learn to read, and it's a wonderful thing that Missoula Public Library sponsors at their Missoula Food Bank, because it's a good way to get involved, and they also have a bunch of free cooking instructions there, as well as I had Jamie Breidenbach here the other day talking about it. Community Practice Group, Jeanette Rankin Peace Center, starting at noon today. It's Compassionate Communication Practice Group. Every second and fourth Wednesday of the month from noon to 1 p.m. you get to learn about compassionate speaking, and it's at their 519 South Higgins address, and this is facilitated by Patrick Marcelic. Bring a lunch. Lunch will not be provided. Mansfield Lecture, China Muslim Borderland. University of Montana speaker Eric Schizel, Director of East Asia Studies and Assistant Professor of History and Political Sciences. If I butchered that, I'm sorry. Since 2000, the People's Republic of China has used Xinjiang, a Muslim minority region, I'm just going to keep saying religion on the Central Asian borders as a testing ground for the overt and covert techniques of surveillance and control. This talk will trace and gradually develop a gradual development of a security regime that creates useful instability by systematically targeting religious and ethnic minorities, and then incentivizing officials to punish dissent. New data from the field shows that the Chinese state has achieved an unprecedented degree of control in Xinjiang, even as the Asian cities develop the appearance of liberalization. Okay, so University of Montana is at the Mansfield Lecture. It's starting at 12 noon today. And if you're not interested in that and you want to play some Scrabble or Bridge, Senior Center is the place to go around 12:30. NAMI Crafts for people, for adults living with mental illnesses. All materials are provided. This is NAMI Crafts, and it's at 202 Brook Street, room 210. Anti-Valentine's Day party. It is Valentine's Day. Big Sky Branch is hosting an anti-Valentine's Day, and you'll be watching the movie Flatliners, the 2017 version, with free popcorn, decent rude, decorate rude conversation heart cookies with unromantic poetry, and do a craft from 3:30 to 5:30 p.m. With as the movie plays, you get to do some crafts and basically make fun of the idea of Valentine's Day. So 2-hour class, glass fusing orientation class. Zootown Arts Community Center is looking for an alternative to the traditional Valentine's Day date night or gift. Glass fusing orientation sounds perfect for you. You'll learn glass fusing. It's a nice little way to make your own little, I don't want to say water pipe, but I think that's most people what they kind of have in mind. So glass fusing orientation is starting at 6 p.m. at the Zootown Arts Community Center. One tree painting with a twist to get your Valentine's Day plans. So there's a whole bunch of Valentine's things to do tonight. This is a couple's painting at Painting with a Twist. Each work on their own canvas. When you smooth them together, they make one painting. Guided supplies provided. Bring your date and some drinks and just paint. Second Wednesday night book groups, because nothing says Valentine's Day and sexy like a book group. Every second Wednesday, the Missoula Public Library hosts a book group, and tonight's book is The Mambo Kings Play Songs of Love by Oscar Huelos. Sorry, in the boardroom. I'm going to say sorry a lot. Okay. All right. So here are the late night events happening tonight as well. Big Brains on Broadway trivia. Valentine's Day square dance at Free Cycles. Who knew? Missoula Open Deck Society DJ Dance Party, Trivia Pursuit at Press Box, Rocking Country Karaoke at the Sunrise Saloon, Craptastic Karaoke at the Badlander, and all these things are pretty much going to be ongoing all tonight, late night, if you guys are bar hopping. I usually kind of gloss over it because it's pretty straightforward and it usually lasts all night. But I got a new art clip for you guys, and it will end by the end of the week. So this is from the Gallery of the Visual Arts in the Social Science Building at the University of Montana. Go check it out. There's a lot of upcoming artists, and this is a great way to see some fresh and refreshing artists that came from all around the state and beyond to the University of Montana's Fine Arts program. So without further ado, here is art. You can see it at the Gallery of Visual Arts until this Friday, and then when I come back, we'll talk about Thursday events. Stay with me. Yeah, that's some really cool art, and you guys can check it out anytime this week at the Gallery of the Visual Arts at the Social Science Building on campus. It's right kitty corner of the Don Anderson Hall, which is the Journalism Building, not to be confused with the old Journalism Building right next to your lecture hall. But if you're looking at the main hall, and you're in the middle of the oval, take a left, walk down that road, and keep walking. And the building that you hit will be the social science building. Boom. And then once you get in the building, directly to your left, you'll see the Gallery of the Visual Arts. So there's an in-depth look at how you can get there. I suggest you maybe, you have to go before 5 because it usually closes at 5, maybe 4:30 if people are really antsy to get out of there. Here are your Thursday events. Tiny Tales kicks off your morning like any other morning. It's a great way to start your morning off with some education and reading for your kids at the Missoula Public Library. Stomp Rockets at the Spectrum Discovery Center. And if you don't know what Stomp Rockets is, then you must be crazy, because the whole idea is it uses pressure of air to launch rockets into the sky, and it is a wonderful activity, and it's a great way to get your kids interested in science. It's a great way to trick them into science, because that's usually how you got to get kids interested in things. You got to trick them into thinking that it's fun. Anyways, it is fun. Easy steps to ebooks. Missoula Public Library. This class is an introduction to an overall of the ebook resources available in the library. The instructor will cover how to use various e-readers to access the library's collection. Attendees are encouraged to bring their e-readers to the class. Bring your Kindles, bring your tablets or whatever. Registration is required by calling 721-BOOK, otherwise known as 721-2665. You can drop in anytime to sign up as well. In design, the basics. Dickinson Lifelong Learning Center. Learn all the basic aspects of InDesign interface, including tools and platelets, as well as how to create documents and master pages. Important and style text, graphics, and objects. Create custom colors, print, and package documents, as well as export documents. So it's basically kind of like what they do with Google Drive, but this is another InDesign, which is a kind of like a Google Drive. So it's pretty cool. It's a nice new thing to learn, because I heard Google Drive was it's going to be taken away in a way. So just be aware of that. You might have to look that up. I don't know if they change their mind or they're just going to change it without just being like, oh yeah, you can keep all your stuff. We're just slightly changing it. Moving on. Make It and Take It crafts at Big Sky Branch. Missoula Public Library hosts this event at the Big Sky High School. You can call them at 728-2400. 728-2400 is the MCPS main line, but their extension line is 8605, and it starts at 2:30 p.m. at the Missoula, at the Big Sky High School Library. Farming with Frass. Missoula Insectarium. Join while they talk about bugs, nutrient cycles, and soil health. Insects and their relatives have always served an amazing role in the ecosystem, and one of their jobs is to maintain healthy soil. Stop in and learn how people are utilizing frass, or insect poop, in modern agriculture today. They'll be creating their own gardens inspired those grown with little help from their little friend Frass. And that's the Missoula Insectarium from 3 to 5. Ceramics for kids at the Clay Studio of Missoula at 3:30 to about 5:30. And this is a 4-week course, and this is for ages 9 to 12. And it's $90 per child per session, but it must take into account the amount of money that goes into paying for the instruction, and also goes into paying for the supplies for making ceramics. Creating functional and sculptural forms, children in this older kids camp will also get time to experiment with the pottery wheel. Meditation 2.0, the Learning Center at Red Willow. Have you tried meditation and struggled to keep going? Perhaps you have the basics down, gain some momentum, and want to take it to the next step. The Learning Center at Red Willow hosts this, basically this 5-week course. Happens 6 to 7:15 p.m. February 15th tomorrow until March 15th. So a whole month of learning advanced meditation, or this next step. I don't know, intermediate. That's usually what's after beginning. But yeah, learn that. Mindful Community Conversations, Open Way Mindfulness Center. Open Way Mindfulness Center presents free and open to attend. Their topic is suicide. It starts at 7:30. The speaker is Jack Shiflett. Jack Shiflett is president of the NAMI Missoula, originally from Buffalo, New York. He has lived in Missoula since 2003. He has written and published poetry and currently teaches a monthly writing workshop for Living Art of Montana. As a suicide attempt survivor, he understands the need for suicide awareness and prevention efforts in the community. He is a trained instructor for the QPR Questions, Persuade, Refer suicide program. sponsored and coordinated by the Missoula County Health Department. And this is going to be at the Open Way Mindfulness Center at 702 Brook Street tomorrow night at 7:30 p.m. So if you are somebody who is thought about suicide or know somebody who's thought about suicide, this will be the it's a free class, and you can check it out at 7:30, and it only goes until about 9, and you can have some questions, and you can talk to Jack Shiflett. He's local here in Missoula, and he also works with Living Art of Montana. So once again, Open Way Mindfulness Center at 702 Brook Street. So that's what's happening then. Here are some late night events to keep you busy for the next couple nights. It's Plonk is doing some live jazz. You got Hambone and the Headliners at Sunrise Saloon, The Wind and the Wave at the Top Hat. It's going to be rock and miscellaneous music, so it's a jam band. Jackson Holt, Occult Wizard, and the Pool Boys at the VFW. Rockin' Karaoke at the Dark Horse. So you get plenty of options to be out and about. And if you don't know what your options are, you can go to MissoulaEvents.net. MissoulaEvents.net is the best place to be if you're interested in finding out, hey, I want to know what's going on in Missoula. This is it. This is basically what's going on here in Missoula. And of course, you can always go to umt.edu/events because the UMT, the University of Montana, hosts a lot of events as well. And they also talk about opening of galleries. So they have their own kind of page that doesn't really correlate too much with MissoulaEvents.net unless they have a big speaker for a public forum like Mike Adams. That was there last night. So let's not get into it. Thanks for joining me. I hope you guys have a wonderful couple days. This is the beginning week of Flagship, so this is the first week of the Flagship program for all the schools in the Missoula County area, and I'm doing a couple of them. Today is Lowell School, and then I got Washington Middle School, and I also have C.S. Porter later this week, so I'll be starting up a Flagship Friday, maybe this Friday? Question mark? Maybe not. So stay with me. I have a lot of things to talk about, and not enough time to talk about it, I guess. But, thanks for joining me. And for Wake Up Missoula, I'm Scott Ramp.